We are continuing, the world has ended in all of the Avengers worlds, but apparently it hasn't, because Ant-Man still exists, and Barry's here to talk about it.
It's set in the faraway, distant, separate universe that is 2017, I guess this movie's set in.
Does it actually officially nail it down? Because I suppose it's a sequel, and they talk about 2 years later, don't they?
Yes, they mention something like that. So I guess it is 2018. So it must literally be within a matter of weeks before Infinity War, but they do not clarify specifically. So that's it's an odd one.
So if you went to in Infinity War and saw everybody die, and you're wondering why is this film and everyone's still there? That's why.
It's very much like the Saw movies, where
yeah, of course, yes.
I've often said this about the MCU, where it's is it 3 and 4? The revelation at the end of 4 is that it's happening at the same time as 3 or some shit like that. I don't know. Those movies are bad. Let's talk about good movies.
I do have a very hot take about this film, Barry. They went out to make a perfectly good, solid, enjoyable mid-level Marvel film, and they entirely succeeded at making a perfectly good mid-level Marvel film.
Yes, absolutely. They made another Ant-Man.
They did.
I tell you what, though, I don't know if this is a hot take or this is a shared opinion, but I thought I enjoyed this one more than the first Ant-Man.
I think, when they get out of the having to establish the characters and the universe, and fair enough, there's a lot of exposition in this film to the degree that Paul Rudd says a line, it's do you just put quantum in front of everything? Which, I'm not sure, is that a good line, or just a script cop-out where they realize, geez, we're making up a bunch of jargon here. It's fine.
Yeah, I feel like we might see more and more of that the more of these movies we see, because they're going to have to start getting weirder with their stories, and especially if we get to dimension hopping and whatnot. Good old comic book quantum science. But yeah, I was actually very pleasantly surprised by this. I enjoyed the trailers, but I just had this kind of air of cynicism about me that it was Ant-Man was very promising when you had Edgar Wright at the helm, and then he left, and then they finished it, and it turned out good. But the best parts of that movie to me were the bits that felt very Wright-ish, in his style. And then they're we're going to soldier on and make the sequel without him. I had my hesitations, but I honestly just think it felt like it felt like your classic good MCU sequel. Where they upped the ante in some regards, and they built on their established characters, and I thought they delivered pretty much across the board, and it was a much more consistent feeling film, I thought.
What I really liked, in most Marvel sequels, they have to come up with a reason for a sequel, whereas this one, the last film ended with being he came back from the quantum realm, so Hank Pym's wife might still be alive. So the next film is about going to try and find her. It's there's just a continuity there that makes perfect sense, as opposed to Whiplash or whatever Iron Man 2 was about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was pretty direct. And also following on nicely, obviously we mentioned the kind of Infinity War kind of time conundrum there that they did not directly address, but they also followed on the story threads from Civil War. Which I did appreciate. I mean, that was kind of the through line with the parole and the government keeping their eye on him. That was also, again, a direct follow up from the last time we saw this character.
And there was a throwaway line in Infinity War that Scott Lang even, and Hawkeye took deals. So it's there's little threads.
Yeah. So it's the delicate balancing act that is the MCU. I mean, I think we talked about it more in the Infinity War review, but this is where it all starts to come together. And obviously, not everyone quite fit in, but we still got Ant-Man here on the periphery. So
it becomes a more delicate balancing act when you kill off half the characters in the universe.
Yeah. Avengers 4 is going to be easier to make. That's actually a lie. It probably won't be. It's probably going to be very difficult.
So yeah, this film it has Paul Rudd about, which realistically if the film is terrible, but you still have Paul Rudd about, I think it's going to be enjoyable no matter what. He's a likable man.
He is, yeah, absolutely, and he's likable again in this. I especially liked, as far as his likability goes, I really enjoyed his dynamic with his daughter in this film. I think she was a little bit more prominent in this, given a bit more kind of screen time, and you could kind of really get a feel for them as characters, rather than her just being, she's his daughter, so there feel good for, feel bad for him when he can't be with her. There's a bit more substance to it in this one.
As I said, the plot is just building off the first one. Not sure about the villains and all that. Like, it's there. I don't not like it. I do think this entire film would have been solved in like the first act had Lawrence Fishburne just asked for help. And I don't think there's a great reason why he didn't. I know they're right.
Yeah.
It's just like, can you help? And then they're like, yeah, sure.
I like the Ghost character in theory, but yeah, the Lawrence Fishburne character, yeah, I just didn't buy his motivation for being this, for being this big bad, for lack of a better term. It was just, luckily the film kind of has a lot of different stuff going on. You also have Goggins. He's Goggins in about big time. Yeah, if Rudd is Rudd, he's Goggins in like crazy. And I think he's a bit more intriguing, but he is definitely the secondary of the villains. I feel the more kind of disposable character, the more. But so he's a little bit of a backup there for Fishburne's wishy-washy kind of motivations. But I really enjoyed, the action. I thought it was funny, and like you said, it was another good, solid kind of mid-tier MCU film.
And I thought I was over car chases, but there are car chases in this film that are just phenomenal because they integrate.
They're great, yeah.
The Ant-Man shrinking and growing, and it's just great fun.
I think kind of that it's a very, very kind of long sequence, but yeah, that big car chase and the big set piece that basically concludes this film is like one of the better ones, maybe in the whole MCU. Certainly since like Winter Soldier. I really, really loved it. And I think I liked it better than any action scene in Infinity War. But I did feel that Infinity War was a little disappointing in that regard. I feel like because of how CGI heavy it was, it didn't play to the Russos' strength, and we didn't get that really intense kind of action that you like. But this, I feel, really brought the goods for the action stakes.
I was a little disappointed. There was only one real small Ant-Man scene. There was when he had that fight scene at the start of the film in the kitchen. We didn't get a ton of more of that. There was obviously the car chases, but I really liked that from the first film. And I guess it's kind of good that they didn't double dip, so it didn't feel samey. But I still wanted more of it. Of course, this did tie into Infinity War. The post-credit scene was basically all of the Ant-Man universe suddenly disappearing.
Yeah, basically, and it was a nice sting in the tail, though. That rather than him just disappearing, he was stuck in the in the quantum verse. That was a nice touch. I actually, because I think we probably even discussed it on the last podcast. Presumably the post credit scene is Ant-Man or his friends fading away, but doing it the way they did was a very nice touch.
There was a gasp in the cinema when they all disappear when they could.
Oh, really?
He goes into the quantum realm, and he's talking to everybody, and then they cut away, and they're just fading into smoke. And there was a gasp. They were like,
"Yeah, it's a good hook for the next one." I wonder. Well, how'd you get him out of it? I mean, presumably barely anyone knows. I mean, I would feel pretty bad for Ant-Man and specifically Paul Rudd if this is like keeping him out of Avengers 4. But I mean, plus also I don't know that first of all, how did those characters get him out? Second of all, why of all people would they go and seek out Ant-Man at this time? Do you know what I mean? It's like, considering the big hook is that they called Captain Marvel for help. So it's a bit of a conundrum. I hope he's not sidelined.
I guess in this film, his mom gets mystical powers. Maybe they're like, we need mystical quantum powers. Let's go get Ant-Man. Oh no, where is Ant-Man?
Yeah, but how would they determine? Well, I guess they'd see the equipment. I guess it would be a bit of a stretch. I think it would be a bit of a stretch. I don't know if they're gonna bother.
Who's left? They're like Bruce Banner and Tony Stark can work out how the quantum realm works. They're smart guys.
I suppose. Yeah. They have scientist characters. So stranger things have happened. Yeah, we'll see. There'll be enough characters there if they don't want to do that. But
And we're going further back into the past now for Captain Marvel, aren't we? That's set in the 90s, I think.
90s, yes, yeah, mid 90s, I think they said. So yeah, I think just last week, 2 weeks ago, we had the first set photos of that, like official set photos, not leaked set photos. Mm-hmm. Looking good, you know. Outfits look good. You got young young Nick Fury there.
Oh no, they're going to break out the aging technology again, Barry, aren't they?
Oh no. Well, like Sam Jackson has held up decently well. I would say, you know, sorry, I know Disney loves to throw money around, but dare I say, a humble little bit of makeup would probably be just enough to de-age him. And also, he has hair in the pictures. So I don't know. Does Sam Jackson shave his head? Do you think Sam Jackson could grow his hair out like that?
I don't know.
Or is that like it's fake?
I saw Jurassic Park the other day, so I have I have a good firm picture of young Sam Jackson in my head, and you add a wig to him, you get the job done.
Yeah, I think he'd be fine. I hope to God they don't bust out the old tech. I don't think it would be necessary. But I mean, as I think we've discussed in the past, I don't think they use it because they think it's necessary. It very much feels like they're using it to either show off or to test the waters, you know. Because think of the sheer power of the Disney churn machine if they can really start milking these characters and these actors' likenesses even further. But yeah, that movie looks pretty promising, and I was about to say Alison Brie. That's not correct. Brie Larson. They posted a photo together recently that completely threw me off. I like Brie Larson quite a bit. Room and various other things. Tremendous movies. Very talented. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. That is, it's pretty close to Avengers. It's about 2 or 3 months before. So yeah, that's on the horizon. And I guess they're still in the process of I think they're doing additional shoots for Avengers 4 now. So it's yeah, we're heading in that direction.
So yeah, title for that film, do we?
It's been a few rumored ones, but I don't think all they did was confirm that it's not Infinity War Part 2. Which I believe, as we discussed on the last podcast, was because they would completely telegraph the ending of the first one.
I think we both assumed basically by the time Infinity War came out of theaters, which is now, we should have a title by now. And Ant-Man done and dusted. Ant-Man's already out of theaters at this stage, more or less.
I wonder, like, are they? No, I was about to say, are they waiting till after Captain Marvel? No, that would be madness, because that would be 2 months before the film. That wouldn't make sense. It is, yeah, for a film that's less than a year away, it's bizarre it doesn't have a title. But I guess, I mean, it's Avengers, so it, like, doesn't matter. It's Avengers 4, so everyone's going to go see it anyway. You know, based on Infinity War, the question is literally, can it become the biggest box office gross ever? That's where Disney, and specifically the Avengers, are at now. So I think semantics about the name doesn't really matter. I'm trying to think. Actually, I kind of wish they stuck to the previous naming convention, because I can't think of anything that's not cliche that they would use, like Avengers. I don't want like Avengers Redemption, you know what I mean? I or Legacy or any of those other
heavy shot at Impact pay-per-view names this year.
Well, you know, I was thinking more kind of, you know, crappy video game spin-offs and sequels. Yeah. That was mainly what I was going for. You know, Avengers Origins. Or anything like that.
NXT takeover names and just call it Avengers: The End.
Avengers Arrival.
Oh.
That'd actually be alright. That's not bad, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, I actually hadn't even thought, because I was actually thinking to myself, I was like, since it's already filmed and presumably being edited, I know they're doing reshoots, but I was like, I wonder how long before the first trailer. But then I remembered, God, we don't even have a name yet, so, you know, it probably might be closer to Christmas before we get a trailer.
Those two would probably come together at this stage, I'd say.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you know what, they'll probably, I was about to expose my ignorance about American sports and say Super Bowl, but again, that'd be February, that's too late. Yeah, I'd say some con or something like that, they will do a trailer, and, you know, it'll cut to black and then fade up from black with your logo with the name.
It reminds me of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild reveal trailer, where it's like the trailer and then Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm trying to think, what's left on the pop culture calendar. I mean, look, they could do it literally. They could just throw it on YouTube if they wanted. But like, Super Bowl would be too late. There's no Star Wars film to debut it with.
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con is gone. I keep forgetting, actually, that Star Wars is done this year. I'm like, well, yeah, Christmas, Star Wars. Like, no, we already had a Star Wars film this year, and, nobody went to see it. So, well, in the grand scheme of Disney properties, nobody went to see it. But
when's D23? Has that already happened yet? No, that's in February.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's not going to be the big Disney Expo either.
I was trying to think, is there any other... Because obviously, so this is the last Marvel film of the year. We got no Star Wars. I think, is there any other big Disney properties? Is there a Pixar thing they could stick it before? Like I said, they could just throw it on YouTube and just tweet it, and there you go. Who cares? Like Rockstar, like just here we're coming out today and doing this, and you're all gonna watch it. So who cares? So So that's the big ongoing mystery now that we've figured out the Ant-Man time conundrum. Yeah, not much to say about Ant-Man itself, but looking forward to these next two chapters of the MCU, certainly.
Clark Gregg is in Captain Marvel as well. I like Clark Gregg.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was trying to think, is that the guy who plays Ronan? That's not great, Yeah, you got Ronan, you got the whatever his race are called again from Guardians 1. Is this... Not counting stuff like Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is a technical prequel. I'm trying to think, is this the first time they've gone backwards in the MCU?
I think there's a debate about Doctor Strange, isn't there? About when that actually happens?
Right, but in the same way, Ant-Man is kind of, on a technicality that's in there somewhere, but there's not an outright sequel. And again, like Captain America prequel is the term I was looking for there. Captain America is set further back in the past, but it doesn't interact with any of the other films anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I think, barring those technicalities, I would say it's probably the first proper prequel, But, so I guess I think that's it for... Oh, no, wait, no, I was about to say, I think that's it for superhero films, but we got Venom to come. Oh, boy. I think they're spending a lot of money on that, because I've... Pretty much every film I've seen this year since the Venom trailer came out has had the Venom trailer before it. Man, it looks worse every time I watch it. I was kind of into it at first, but... Oof.
Yeah, I kind of like the first trailer, and then the more recent one that came out is like, oh no.
It's like, I love Spider-Man even, and Venom was like my favorite villain growing up, and I like Tom Hardy, I like Riz Ahmed, I think he's very talented. But jeez, it's just, man, it doesn't look very good at all, and the CGI doesn't look good, but I don't know if we'll cross that bridge, but we as film goers will cross that bridge when we get to it.
On the topic of Venom and Spider-Man, big Marvel released this week. Not part of the MCU yet. They'll probably co-opt it in somehow. Marvel. What's the official title of this game? It's Marvel. Is it Marvel Spider-Man?
I think on the PlayStation Store, it's officially listed as Marvel's Spider-Man. I think yeah. So huge release, really awesome. I adore it. I've played the hell out of it. I've played it more feverishly than I've played any game in quite a while. One of those every bit of free time you get, you're playing it, really enjoying that. What's kind of interesting to me is that it's done gangbusters business as you had to imagine it would. It's been critically acclaimed. I've heard very few people who've picked it up, and obviously the reviews were varying degrees of great. I've heard basically no one say they've actively disliked it. You'd have to imagine a sequel is on the way. Or possibly even a full series. My question is, so does Sony have the publishing rights to this character for a fixed term, or is this a one-off game, or you know what I mean? Because I feel like that was never actually publicly stated. It was just Activision don't have these rights anymore. It went very quiet for a few years, and then Sony came out with this announcement. They don't own Insomniac, so hypothetically Insomniac could make a sequel for both consoles. It's just very weird to me, because I feel like it's never been said, oh, Sony, we've signed a deal with Marvel to distribute Spider-Man games for 5 years or anything like that. It's just been, hey, we're making this thing.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Because the Spider-Man rights, Sony owns the film rights to Spider-Man, but they don't own the game rights. They're in all the Lego games. They're in all the other. Spider-Man has had a long history of games, probably more than any other video game character. Yeah,
there's that blocky Spider-Man web-swinging game for one of the early Ataris. Yeah, it would be close. Probably it's probably him and Batman, I'd say, are up there.
The conspiracy theory at the time was part of the pot sweetening between, say, Marvel and Disney and Sony was that you get exclusive video game rights to the character if you give us the film rights to the character. That's a conspiracy theory out there.
Yeah, and I heard that, and I believe it reasonably. I think it's a believable thing. But and as successful as this has been for everyone involved, I'm certain Disney will look at this as a massive success and say, yes, thank you very much. We're taking this to all consoles next time, because why wouldn't we? Because the number, I mean, it's doing absolute gangbusters, specifically in the UK. But you'd have to imagine that it's a US success as well. I mean, it's been kind of in the last kind of 2 weeks, you really started to feel that hype. Like people were frothing at the mouth for this game. You know what I mean? Like it really felt like one of the most anticipated of the year. I think Sony deserves a lot of credit for that. They didn't just agree to make it. It was a flagship E3, thing. It was one of their big games of the year. On a year when they already had God of War, they didn't necessarily need to make a push a Spider-Man game. Yeah, and they have the marketing deal with Red Dead as well. I mean, yeah, so Sony does. I mean, PlayStation absolutely does deserve a lot of credit for the big success that this game is. I wonder how involved they were with the decision for it to be Insomniac, because obviously they don't own Insomniac, but Insomniac and Sony have worked so closely for 20 years. Those guys are great, by the way. It's great to see them, not only a great Spider-Man game, but seeing them really sink their teeth into a huge AAA thing. That's awesome.
Especially after they made Sunset Overdrive, which I haven't played, but by all accounts is fantastic. And then, no, I don't think anybody actually played it.
Yeah, it was great by all accounts, and it was just in that initial year and a half when nobody had an Xbox. And I mean, they're doing better now, but it's still very much playing catch up. And I feel like it was kind of left in the dust, which is a shame. But yeah. So hey, if it wasn't already with all the movies, great time to be a Marvel fan. If you are somehow on the fence and don't own a copy of this yet, Spider-Man, big huge thumbs up from myself.
I think is the only MCU reference in the film the Stark suit from Spider-Man Homecoming? I know there's Avengers references, but not quite specific to the film universe.
Well, if you pre-order it, you also get the Iron Spider, which I believe that's a concept that predates the movie, but it's pretty one-to-one with the movie.
Yep.
So that's in there. It's certainly not canonical to the MCU, but there's quite a few nods in there, I'm fairly sure. Also, I think the internet is still abuzz trying to decipher if the pizza music from Spider-Man 2 is actually in the game. Because someone posted a video, and then there was people saying it was fake, and then other people came out and said, no, I've also been able to hear it. I think I'm surprised Insomniac have not actually addressed that, because they've actually been answering other questions about it fairly frequently on Twitter. But yeah, we'll have to, I was about to say we'll have to start a separate podcast to talk about superhero games, but I hope not only do we get more Spider-Man games, I hope this really kicks into gear the idea that we can get some superhero games back on the AAA space and not just relegate all these great characters to free-to-play games and MOBAs and MMOs and stuff like that. Like, let's bust out these characters and add Telltale. Stop relegating people to Telltale. Like, there should be a Guardians game, a proper game that you could play. You know what I mean? Like, let this be the beginning of that, because this is top notch.
We do have an Avengers game coming from a very good team.
Yes, and I was extremely confused and disappointed we didn't see it at E3.
Yeah.
Very confused. I think did we talk about that? I think we talked about that at the time, didn't we? Because that would have been, did we not record? I think we might not have actually recorded Infinity War until around E3 time. I feel like we have talked about this, that game not appearing. But yeah, hey, we'll put a pin in the video game superhero idea for now, and maybe that'll be the next series once the MCU retires.
We can start with Superman 64.
Oh no, I don't think I've actually played that. I think its reputation preceded it before I ever got around to it. But yeah, if that Rocksteady game turns out to be Superman, I'd be very intrigued.
There is some very, very occasional missions in Spider-Man where you're swinging through hoops, and I'm like, oh, flashbacks.
I bet it's a bit better.
It is considerable. I played that game for 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh god, oh no. Alright, Barry, before we go, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me over at the Barry Lad on Twitter. It's where I am, remarking about things that are going on in my life, doing a very, very rare occasional bit of blogging and a very, very rare occasional bit of streaming, trying to get back into both on a more regular basis. But until then, you can just follow me on Twitter for various thoughts on various things, including updates on when I will be doing more podcasts with Garrett and various other people. So, follow me over there for more.